Welcome, welcome, welcome on this Monday edition of Redacted. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And on this show, we hold powerful people to account, cover the stories you might not see in your mainstream media. And we've got a very busy show for you coming up tonight. We're going to talk about what Putin just did this afternoon. Well, Putin by way of the Russian energy company Gazprom, which is really in many ways one of the biggest stories we've covered in the past few months, what it means for Europe heading into the winter, what it means for the United States as oil, gas basically cut off to Europe from Russia. So very interesting story.
That's right. We're also going to talk about some newly released tapes of President Biden showing interest in Ukraine as he was leaving office as vice president. These are really interesting puzzle pieces, and we're not completely sure how they fit together. So we're going to work it out together because it's concerning.
Yeah, we'll leave it up to you maybe to decide like what it all means. We're also going to look at some new discussions by a judge. Maybe the judiciary is actually starting to fight back against big pharma. There's been a couple of instances now where judges have stepped in to say, whoa, 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 hey, Pfizer, hey, Moderna, wait a second. Before we roll these things out, we want to see what's in these secret contracts that you've made with the governments. We want to see what's inside these contracts before we roll out these jabs. So we're going to tell you what country just put their foot down on that.
Also, there is a mysterious plane crash that was carrying weapons to Ukraine, and people are saying that the wreckage is causing people's skin to burn. What's that about?
This sounds like I was thinking about it earlier. Like we'll get to it, but like it sounds like the opening of like a Tom Clancy novel.
All of this, like I would believe none of this. In fact, a lot of these stories are really triggering 2016 Natalie, who wanted to believe none of this.
Right. It's like, wait a minute, there's a park where they recreated dinosaurs. That actually sounds more believable than what happened this weekend with this plane crash. But we're going to get into all of that and more. And Nancy Pelosi's husband made some stock picks. Very
interestingly timed.
Yeah, well timed. Man, that Pelosi stock picker, that you should follow that newsletter for your stock picks. All of that as Redacted starts right now.
Well, welcome to your Monday. Thank you for joining the show today.
I see Shako from Latvia is joining us. Shako, this is we are live every day here, Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, I don't know what time, Latvian time.
Yeah, what time is it in Latvia?
You would think that's Eastern Europe, perhaps Eastern European time.
Yeah, let us know in the chat. Tell us in the chat.
So that would make it, I think, 11 or 12 your time. You let us know.
Tell us in the chat where you're from. I'd love to hear all of the different voices. So some people, I just want to, before we kind of dive into tonight's show, some people were asking about, like they're confused when they join us or they watch the replay because we cut off that 30-minute intro in replay, but it takes a while for YouTube to process those cuts. So it takes us we have a 30-minute introduction because YouTube takes forever to get these alerts out to its audience. So we have a 30-minute introduction while we're getting all the alerts out, and then you can join us live here on the show. And so then later when you're watching the replay, we cut that off so you won't watch that whole thing.
So people were wondering what time we actually go live?
No. Well, some people were like, "Oh man, this intro that I see when I'm like, I get it, but we're a live show, and so we release these things separately. So just you can always scrub if you're watching the replay. Just scrub forward to the beginning of the show. No problem there.
Yes, thank you for telling us, everybody. Germany, New Zealand, Melbourne,
Indiana,
Romania,
Romania,
look at that.
New Zealand, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Hello from Finland.
Well,
wow.
If you're new to us, you may know we are two former American broadcasters for network news. Now we are still American broadcasters for our own channels.
Journalists.
On whatever platform you'd like to watch us on. We are also a married couple. So if we start to get snarky with each other, that is our love language.
That's right.
It's not for you to ring in on. I don't like those she's mean to him or he's, cutting him off. And I'm like, You don't get to say how
It's
I
funny.
talk to my husband.
Literally, we'll see a video and it'll say, "You got to stop cutting her off," and then the next video is like,
She always interrupts me.
She better stop cutting him off. It's like, okay, I love it. Philip, our producer, he can cut us off anytime. He's here, so in the background.
Yeah, but I'm never Starkey because I'm not married to either of you. So I keep it nice and cool.
Or it's unrelated snark. You know, last week, a couple times when we did have David on, I noticed people were talking over Philip, and since Philip talks so little, I feel like we need to always cede the floor when he starts talking.
We need to advocate for Philip.
Right.
Yeah.
Always.
It's like when it's like when the 5-year-old, when there's like 7 and a 10-year-old, and the 5-year-old wants to say something, and you're like, everyone, can we allow the 5-year-old to speak now?
That's condescending. Don't say that to him.
He gets it.
He usually has very sophisticated viewpoints.
But what I mean is, because we're all
true.
talking and it's like crushing him, and we're like, hey, wait, hold on a second. Philip has the floor. All right? Philip has the floor.
We need a talking stick.
All right, before we get started here,
What I need to do is get my camera set up so that I can just, if somebody interrupts me, I'll just cut to my camera. I can shut everybody else's audio off, and I'll be like, I am about to speak.
Yes.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Before we get started here, someone got a haircut. I don't know if someone got a haircut. I don't know if you know who got a haircut. You want to see this? You want to see my haircut?
Okay. No.
Yes, Justin Trudeau got a haircut.
You're dropping this on me like this in the show?
Look at this. Like everyone's comparing it to Dumb and Dumber. He looks exactly like him, roughly.
Now
except
you
with
can
the
see his cheeks
tooth.
from the back.
Like with the broken tooth. I mean, of all the hair, like he had great hair. I mean, he's a dictator, right? But he had great hair.
But the hair was the thing we could universally agree on was fabulous. Why? I mean, I guess it's hot. Must have been hot under those luscious locks.
I guess. That's what I'm dealing with, these luscious locks. Maybe I should go with the Dumb and Dumber. Should I get the Dumb and Dumber? Like, I can do that.
I
can
can't
probably
stop looking at that.
Like, I can actually get pretty close. I went to
No, that was Clayton's Halloween costume, was Dumb and Dumber, and he did the hair just like it. I'm not for this.
Yeah.
My week's just getting worse and worse.
Well, hey, buckle your seatbelts. Hey, we have a website and we have a brand new newsletter. So our newsletter's been around for about a year under a different name, but we finally got the website up and running so that now every morning we have a newsletter that Natalie writes. We work very hard on it. I edit and put a lot of humor into it as well. But it's at redacted.inc. So go to redacted.inc and sign up. You can get the newsletter delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. We cover about 5 or 6 big stories. We do it with some humor, some things that you might have missed over the past 24 hours. Again, it's an email newsletter, so you can read it in about 5 or 10 minutes over your cup of coffee right first thing in the morning. And it's a good way for us to connect as well because big tech, loves to censor different companies and different YouTube channels and so forth. So that way, if we ever have to communicate, we can let you know, hey, come find us over here. So very, very important. Go to redacted.inc to sign up. Really, really appreciate you doing that. All right, let's get started with our top story today. Let's talk about what unfolded just this afternoon in Europe versus Russia is I called it a death blow. I think this really is a death blow to Europe. And frankly, I think, honestly, Russia called the EU's bluff on this, which is around cutting off gas prices, right, and capping prices. So basically, the G7 nations were saying to Russia, hey, what we want to do is cap the prices of gas, right? We're not going to pay anything more than what we want.
Right. What they've been telling them is we're sanctioning you. We don't like you anymore. We are going to stop using your oil, but we need it for now. So we're going to put a cap on the price. Right. And so within the last few days, the Nord Stream 1 pipeline has been down for scheduled maintenance. In the meantime, Europe kind of freaked out that Russia would not turn this pipeline back on because of the extreme dependency on this pipeline. And now Reuters is reporting that the Russian gas company Gazprom has sent a letter to at least one European market. We are surmising that it's Germany because Germany is the major recipient of this pipeline, and said, we declare what's called a force majeure. We no longer have to honor our contract and send you oil at all. We don't like doing business with you. We decide that this is a force majeure ending of the contract. How do you like them apples?
So Gazprom, yeah, this is how Zero Hedge reported it. If you want to take my laptop here, Phil, Gazprom reportedly declares force majeure will halt gas flows to Germany indefinitely. Already just days before July 22nd, European doomsday, when the scheduled Russian 10-day maintenance of the crucial Nord Stream 2 pipeline is slated to end, but which was thrown into deep doubt given the fact that Gazprom recently said it could no longer guarantee its good functioning. So now this force majeure, let's talk about what is a force majeure. Basically, well, I want you to give me the definition, but simply put, Gazprom declared extraordinarily and extreme circumstances to void itself from contractual obligations to its customer. Basically, the gas will stop flowing. So already you're seeing companies saying, hey, we're going to have to reduce the amount. You have to turn off the lights.
Yes.
You have to turn off the lights. You have to turn off gas. You can't cook at certain times now.
Well, we saw that just last week. We reported in the newsletter about how a German landlord is saying that you can only put your thermostat to, was it 17 degrees Celsius?
Well, yeah. Well, that would be the cap. It'd
right.
be like
They
17,
capped it
yeah.
at nighttime. So I'm sorry if you're cold. These are the conditions under which we will all live this winter. Anyone who lives in this, and this is the biggest property owner in Germany, so anyone who lives in those apartments at night will not be able to spike their thermostat. They better buy extra blankets. So we're seeing real life changes due to our dependency on foreign oil right
So
now.
limiting everything from limiting hot water to shutting down swimming pools to, if you're thinking about first world problems, right? If you're worried about your German swimming pools, there's a lot of other problems in the world, right? To quite literally dimming street lights as it entered alarm stage over this dwindling supply, as Zero Hedge is reporting. They've, really taken unprecedented steps in anticipation of enduring Russian gas halt, essentially dimming the lights across the country. And this is going to have dramatic reverberations across Europe and into the United States of America as well. And again, so this sort of dance, right? You're calling Putin's bluff on this. The EU and Ursula von der Leyen were calling Putin's bluff on this. Like, hey, yeah, here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep buying our stuff from you, but we're going to cap it at a certain price. And you will go along with this. Oh, and by the way, you will also use our currency, our euros. Here you go. The Russians are like...
Well, they were buying sort of tokens from Gazprom after Russia had decided that Gazprom would only accept money in rubles. But this is really interesting move because who's to stop them from doing this, right?
Who's to stop who?
Who's to stop Russia from saying, well, then we don't honor this business contract anymore, right? Is there an international, surely within these contracts, there is some kind of international court there's always some kind of clause in a contract that says if either party fails, this will be litigated where, right? But where are those now neutral places that either of these nations would agree to? Would they even care, right?
Right. Can
they even do this? It's interesting because when you look at what the definition is of a force majeure, it has to be, can we put it up? I just screenshotted this from Investopedia.
Here it is.
Yes, this one here. It says that it needs to be, there are three definitions. It has to be, I'm sorry, I need to start bringing my glasses.
Yeah, good idea.
So irresistible is one of them, meaning you couldn't change it, right? There's no way to stop it. Unforeseeable is another definition of a force majeure, or external, meaning you could not affect it, right? And so that's the one that I'm kind of hung up on, because for Russia to say, look, the war is a force majeure, it really is, I was going to say COVID in many cases was considered a force majeure for many business contracts, right?
Right.
Many businesses could not carry out their obligations because COVID came along. A hurricane is a force majeure. Clayton tells me I brought
No. I'm telling you to use your microphone.
Oh, okay. He went like this, and I thought that meant
you're
drifting.
She was drifting away from the microphone, and when you drift away from the microphone, this is what happens. So
I'm trying to look. Okay, I'm trying to look
back
at you. Anyway.
Yeah. So that you could say the pandemic was a force majeure. You could say these unbelievable tsunami. This is a force majeure.
Yes.
Again, yeah. Who's going to stand by and say? But you know what? Russia could say, wait a second. We've told you not to send these long-range weapon systems into Ukraine. and to fire upon us, which they've hit these HIMARS that they've been now sending into Ukraine over the past 24 hours. These heavy weapons, right? These long-range heavy weapons that can fire inside of Russia. Russia has said, their state television has said, hey, we have now knocked these out. So stop sending these things because we're just going to keep blowing them up.
Right,
So,
and we don't want to sell you gas to
right, exactly.
send those in, right?
Think how ridiculous. I'm trying to think of like like an analogy, like with my family, like how ridiculous this would be, right? Like, okay,
Well, it'd be like giving Cousin Eddie gas, to come back to your house for Christmas.
right?
Like, no, I'm not going to do that. The
Yes.
National Lampoons.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Like you don't, if you don't want that actor to be in a certain place, you don't give him gas money.
Philip, can you think of like a good analogy, or anyone in the chat? Anybody comments,
I
please?
can.
I'm trying to think of like a good analogy.
I actually,
like,
I
know what
brought
mean?
this up in, like several months ago. I brought this up, this analogy, because it is how I see it. Is like why it's so interesting that Europe can tell Russia that we don't want your gas anymore next year, and it's like
Right.
it's like a
Right.
bunch of kids. It's a bunch of kids playing ball, right? They're all playing baseball, but only one kid has a ball, and
Right.
nobody else wants to play with that kid. They're like, hey, you're not allowed to play baseball with us once we get our own baseball. But if you could at least hang around and we could use your
You've
ball to
got the
play
ball.
until we get our own baseball, then you're out. You're totally out after that. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like a simple analogy for it, but it just blows my mind that once Germany came out and said that. I mean, it was a couple months ago where Germany came out and said like we are totally going to cut off Russian oil next year.
Right, next
Yeah.
year. Like,
Like-
but for the meantime, we're going to continue to buy your oil and also send weapons to fire into and kill your citizens as well. Like, we're going to continue to do that.
Well,
Meanwhile,
we're going to use it, right? We're
Yeah.
going to use that gas.
Meanwhile, the International Energy Agency, the IEA, released their report back. You can take my laptop here, Philip. Back in February. This was literally right after the invasion. So they already had this 10-point plan to reduce European Union's reliance on Russian natural gas. So let's go through this 10-point plan. Let's look at what they said back then. Meanwhile, they didn't do any of this, right? No new gas supply contracts with Russia. They still put those gas supply contracts in place. Remember, Ursula von der Leyen even did. Replace Russian supplies with gas from alternative sources. Did they do that? I don't know.
No.
What else? Introduce minimum gas storage obligations to enhance market resilience. Where's that? Where's the surplus so we can actually make through this winter right now? Accelerate the deployment of new wind and solar projects, because I love how is there any mention, here's some nuclear information. Germany, which by the way, cut off and shut down their nuclear power plants, right? Just in time, literally just in time as the Ukraine war was starting. Maximize generation from existing dispatchable low emission sources, bioenergy and nuclear. But you know what? Germany did the exact opposite, which was shut down their nuclear power plants.
At a time when Russia was actually ramping up nuclear production.
Yeah. Enact short-term measures to shelter vulnerable electricity consumers from high prices. Okay. Speed up the replacement of gas boilers with heat pumps. Accelerate energy efficiency improvements in buildings and industry. So accelerate that. Yeah, get on that, because that's going to, that takes like a decade, right? Or longer to try to do that. Encourage a temporary thermostat adjustment by consumers. So we're already doing that. And cross-cutting.
How temporary though, right? Because now it's a necessity. It's not just a sort of weaning ourselves plan. There's nothing there.
Also, how about like tap into our own natural resources? No, we can't do that. Like, that's off the Great Reset agenda now, because the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab have spoken. Like, you can't do that. You can't tap into your own country's natural resources. Oh, and you can't use nuclear energy, which we now know how safe that is, right? So no, you can't do any of that.
So I think this begs an important question for those of us who don't live in Germany is, will these kind of measures come to the West? Will our dependence on whatever energy we're dependent on right now, could that happen here, right? Wherever you are here.
What do you mean by that? I mean, we're already seeing in the United States a total collapse. Like we literally sitting on, we are literally sitting on mountains of resources that we're not using, right? And instead, President Biden flying to Saudi Arabia, doing this ridiculous dance with a known killer, basically, ordering the death of, think about the thousands of people in Yemen and Syria and Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi, like literally going there and bowing down and bending the knee with the Saudi prince in the Saudi regime, begging for oil at a time when you literally are sitting on mountains of oil in the United States of America.
Right. I guess I wasn't specifically asking about oil, but any resource, right? Any resource that we're used to. We continue to be warned about grains and oil, cooking oil, as well as gasoline. And so if this could happen in Germany, which is just known as, I'm sorry to use this expression, this is what comes to mind, a well-oiled machine, right? Then can it happen anywhere where you will then, wherever you live, be capped at your ability to heat or cool your house during extreme temperatures, or what you can buy, or where, yes, the pools you can swim in, or anything like that. Is this coming for all of us?
Yeah, I mean, look, people are saying right now in our chat, let us know. I mean, Sri Lanka, right?
Yes.
Ireland, it's gonna happen all over the place,
yes.
right? So yeah, let's talk about President Biden's Saudi Arabia trip, right? His trip there to get Saudi oil. That was the whole point, right? Was to go there and ask them to increase capacity, lower prices, get us oil, right? That was the fist bump heard around the world right there. Of course, when they did that fist bump, by the way, the Saudi press office was the one that released that fist bump photo. Like they pushed that thing out as quickly as they could. And so that fist bump boom moment was because of the Saudi office pushing that out. So his Saudi trip was a disaster. It yielded no oil and no push to end the conflict in Yemen. So here's the fist bump again. Let's watch this. Boom. Photos there. They made sure that was perfectly staged to send out. So and the Saudis couldn't. The Saudis came out and said we can't expand. Right? They already said that we have no capacity. Right? Saudi Arabia cannot expand oil production beyond 13 million BPD.
Well, because this is already an agreed upon number with OPEC. They could, right? But OPEC, but they've decided not to, and they don't want to tap into their profit margins.
Well, let's go through this article, shall we?
Okay, go through the article.
Oh, put it back up on the screen. Sorry.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, no, I thought you were going to go through it. So go through it here. Let's take a look at this. Right? Saudi Arabia will not have any additional capacity. So they have this 1 million additional that they can work on by the year 2027. But that's going to take a while. Like they are not ready for it. And they have this agreed upon price tag. They are not moving forward on it in any kind of capacity. And this is where we're stuck. Rand Paul tweeted about this. He thought it was a disaster to go into Saudi Arabia. Here was Rand Paul saying this: Saudi Arabia disregards basic human rights, slaughters innocents in Yemen, horrifically murders dissidents, puts millions on the edge of starvation, and supports and strengthens our enemies. He goes on to say, yet Biden kowtows to them to try and fix a crisis of his making instead of changing policies here at home to fix domestic oil production. And then he goes on to say, how many uncontested arms sales are they going to get out of this? How many more lives in Yemen will it cost? You could also mention Syria, and just to appear as if he's helping. And literally on the same day that this happened, I didn't put it in the show, but there trailer after trailer after trailer of oil leaving Syrian oil fields. The very same Syrian oil fields that the United States lies about and pretends that they are there simply guarding. That's what they say publicly, that the United States has 2,000 troops just guarding those oil fields so that they're protected for the Syrian people, which the Syrian people don't get access to, that the United States steals the oil and then drives it out of there. That's what happened over the weekend. Literally, semi-truck after semi-truck after semi-truck leaving these oil fields to ship oil where? Who knows where? We're probably selling it. Well, it'll be amazing to see if it winds up in the United States, but we literally go into Syria and steal their oil.
Well, the White House is doing a victory lap about this trip to the Middle East, though, saying that it actually brokered ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel, opened up airspace that wasn't open before. Okay. So I guess that was important.
Good.
Who had that on their wish list, on their 2022 goals?
So that means he flies Air Force One 7,000-mile jet trip to beg Saudi Arabia for more oil capacity, when at the very same time the West is putting draconian sanctions on Russia, driving up the cost of everything,
Yes.
right? Ruining the economy back home, but flying to Saudi Arabia to kiss the hands.
And setting the example for the rest of the West that does what the United States wants, right? So the EU and the UK now considering putting more sanctions on Russia because that seems to be going so well for them, this time on gold. They're meeting today. We'll know what that meeting results in short order. But at the same time, it's interesting that the sanctions just keep piling on, and it's having absolutely the boomerang effect of harming the citizens of the countries that are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit more on that. So yeah, the EU is meeting this afternoon. They have this discussion. Tomorrow, we might learn whether or not they add additional sanctions against Russia. So today was just the discussion phase of it on Russian gold and additional sanctions. It's done nothing. It's done nothing. What's happened? The value of the ruble has gone up, right? If anything, we've seen the fracturing of this liberal world order, and these globalists see the uprisings in the Netherlands, Sri Lanka, Albania. We're seeing it in Panama now. We're seeing it all over the world. I mean, when are they going to learn their lesson? And so then you see what's happening in Russia, and you see that their economy is doing well. You see that they have made significant ties now in areas maybe that hadn't fully solidified before with India and China. Mm-hmm. It's like a reordering of deck chairs on the Titanic at this stage.
Yes. I mean, it feels like that. So, and I'm watching headlines today of CNBC and Wall Street Journal saying that the dollar is so strong right now, but it's really not. It's just that most Western currencies are down and the dollar is sucking the least, right? So we're calling this we're patting ourselves on the back.
Right.
For winning the losing race, and I find that very interesting when you look at sort of Eastern markets that are not suffering from these government crises, government-made crises.
Well, and you think about the way in which their currencies are tied to actual physical things like gold. Russia has as close an economy tied to gold as any major government currency does Russia. And think about as a gold standard, right? So the United States doesn't, right? We were taken off the gold standard in the 1970s under Nixon. Russia is as close to a gold standard, while not actually technically on a gold standard, but it really is almost a ruble to gold scenario in Russia. Why do you think they've been buying up so much gold? Why do you think that China has been hoarding as much gold as it can get its hands on?
Yeah.
Right? So again, you have these currencies and these economies that in many ways are tied to physical precious metals and other things like that, while the United States is on thin air, $30 trillion in debt. Let us know your thoughts on that. But speaking of gold, my fellow Americans, if you have an IRA, you have a 401k, you have a savings account, things are scary as hell out there right now. The Biden administration has printed more money in the past 2 years than the previous 100 years combined. The national debt hit a record $30 trillion, and inflation is the highest we've seen since 1982. It's only a matter of time before the house of cards comes crashing down. If you have a retirement savings, your money could be at serious risk. Talk to my friends at Goldco and see how you can protect your retirement with gold and silver before it's too late. So go to redactedlikesgold.com. See it there on your screen, redactedlikesgold.com. And you can actually get up to $10,000 or more in free silver when you open a qualifying account. So I love gold and silver, those two precious metals. And, silver's in many ways a lot more affordable right now for people, but you get $10,000 in free silver when you open a qualifying account. Go to redactedlikesgold.com, and my friends at Goldco will give you $10,000 or more in free silver when you open a qualifying account. So our thanks to them. Thank you so much. Hope everyone is doing well on this Monday. How are you doing?
I'm good. I will say that you have more of my undivided attention this week because our kids are back from summer camp. And I was not really able to concentrate as well as I would have liked last week.
She was so worried last week.
I was a wreck.
Well, I was the one that, to me, going to summer camp was like the 2 greatest weeks of my summer. I absolutely loved it. In Pennsylvania, I would go to Camp Conrad Weiser in Berks County. Loved it. And those 2 weeks were fantastic. And I just cannot speak highly enough of going away for summer camp, right?
But I never had that experience. And for those of you who were with us, I want to say February or March, we took a poll whether or not our children should go to sleepaway summer camp. And overwhelmingly, you all in the chat had voted yes. I was outvoted.
Yes.
And they had a great time. It was absolutely, childhood memories that solidified, like really important memories for them. But I was
she was a wreck.
I was a wreck.
She's like, can they call me? I'm like, no, that's the whole point of summer camp, to go away from their parents and have these formative experiences where they have to be with friends and socialize. And
where my daughter was, they took her phone. So, she wasn't allowed to send any messages. So anyway, you might tell that I have a little more pep in my step. It's because there's no like checking my phone or seeing even like.
It was weird because they went to I don't know if we told you this, but they went to Ukraine. They went to Camp Zelensky, and we didn't realize this when they were going out to. They were actually going to put them on the front to fight. And I was like, come on, that's a little risky. Let's bring them back home. But they were only there for a week.
That's a ridiculous joke.
but it's not true. We didn't send them to Ukraine to Camp Zelensky. They went to different random sleepaway camps, but they had a blast. And
not random.
Not random. Well, yeah, the ones we chose. Anyway. But
we just dropped them off at one.
Yeah. Well, like, hey, you guys taking kids?
I'm sure they'll let you in.
Yeah. You guys a summer camp? Yeah. All right, here you go, Miles. Boom.
All right. So anyway, chat room, you got your way on that one. Hope you're happy now.
Yeah. That's right. Good training. They are good training. That's right. Camp Zelensky. That's right, Wayne. Don't ever go to Camp Zelensky.
Okay, I'll not.
Corrupt.
I'll not do
corrupt.
that.
All right, let's talk about this next story. Big story out of Ukraine, though. President Biden. Now, we should set the stage here. About a couple of years ago, let's go back a couple of years ago in Ukraine, where President Biden was on the phone with then President of Ukraine, Poroshenko. Let me do that again. I feel like my notes are missing here. Did you delete a whole bunch of my stuff?
No, these were the notes.
Okay, take two, because we had a little pre-show hiccup here, and I'm like, where are my notes on this? Or did a story get moved that's not here? Okay, yes, let's go to Ukraine, shall we? Let's talk about a new round of tapes from President Biden that have emerged over the past few days. Now, these tapes are pretty damning. These tapes look at his discussions with then President Poroshenko back in 2016, shortly after President Trump was elected. We'll get to that tape in a second, but we should provide some context here, because this context led to an impeachment of President Trump. So the context is, when President Biden a number of years ago, these tapes came to light in 2020. I think OAN network, was the ones that broke the tapes initially. And of course, Poroshenko came out at the time and said, these are Russian fabrications. These aren't real tapes. This is Russia made these up. That's all been debunked now. Of course, it led to the impeachment. We know that these tapes are real, and that the authentication of President Biden at the time was Vice President speaking. This was before he was
right. So this is the timeline, right?
2016.
The timeline of the phone call that we are about to play for you happened in 2016, when there was a president-elect, Donald Trump, and the Obama administration was outgoing. So the Biden we hear from at the time is Vice President Joe Biden, who we now know, we at least all agree that Hunter Biden, his son, has business dealings of an oil and gas company in Ukraine called Burisma. Right. We know this now. This is part of the context of that call.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we now know this. This is undebatable.
This is now an agreed upon truth.
Right. For 2 years, Rachel Maddow told us this was Russian propaganda and it was all fake. Now we know that it's absolutely 100% accurate. So this first phone call I'm going to play from you, just to provide some context, is President Biden on with Poroshenko, where Biden asks him to fire the prosecutor in Ukraine who was looking into Hunter Biden and Burisma, specifically Burisma. Take a listen.
That there is a new government and a new prosecutor general. I am prepared to do a public signing of the commitment for the $1 billion.
So, yeah. Poroshenko then can be heard defending the prosecutor before saying he asked for his resignation. So in the second soundbite I'll play for you here, this is where Poroshenko says that he's going to ask his prosecutor to resign. But first he's like, there's no corruption here. This prosecutor is a good prosecutor. There's no corruption. He didn't do anything wrong. So I'm basically asking him to resign because you want me to, Vice President Biden, so we can get this loan approval money? Like, that's what I'm going to do? President and Vice President Biden is like, yeah, that's what you're going to do. And you're going to do it within a short amount of time, or you're not going to get this loan. Take a listen.
Congratulations on installing the new prosecutor general. It's going to be critical for him to work quickly to repair the damage Shokin did. And I'm a man of my word. And that now that the new prosecutor general's in place, we're ready to move forward in signing that new $1 billion loan guarantee.
Okay, so these were tapes that were released previously. You may have heard them before.
Right. Yes, you would have heard these before. But this all led to something really important, right? These discussions led to something because President Trump then...
So you may recall the phone call between President Trump and President Zelensky shortly after his election to the presidency in Ukraine. President Trump called him. This is the phone call for which he was impeached in the House, right? The phone call in question mentions this prosecutor, right? This is President Trump saying, I heard you had a prosecutor who was very good and he was shut down and that was really unfair. A lot of people are talking about that. And he talks about how he would like to go into figuring this out.
Yeah, at the
right?
end here, you want me to read this? There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the attorney general would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me.
Now, the way this was framed, and I think it's only fair that I sort of disclose that I was one of those people who felt like this phone call was impeachable at the time. And now I have a little context and I feel a little duped about it, right? Whether these tapes are legitimate or not, it's interesting because of the way we are now seeing Hunter Biden as a legitimate actor inside Ukraine and the president working to protect his son.
This should be a lesson to all of us. This should be a lesson to all of us because, and I encourage all of you to go and watch Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate in an interview that they did at the Collision Conference where they talked about being duped by the Western media. What you just talked about is exactly right. What we were spoon-fed from CNN and MSNBC and most of the major media outlets all fell in lockstep.
Yes.
Laid it out as Russian propaganda, that Trump should be impeached, that there's nothing to see here. What are you doing calling all
Well,
of this?
because he says, can you do me a favor? And it acts, and so we were told that is asking for...
It's quid pro quo, right? You go look into this,
right,
and we will make sure
or
you get
asking
money.
for campaign contributions from a foreign government.
But this is exactly what Vice President Biden just did, right? In these tapes, he's saying, fire this prosecutor, or you're not going to get this $1 billion loan.
Yes.
Fire this prosecutor. Oh, you did it? Good. Now I'm going to do a public signing ceremony for you. But meanwhile, I want to...
So the new tapes that we have now take that conversation a little bit further, where President Biden says that he is mostly concerned that if there is more sort of, sort of stirring the pot, that President Trump will look into this prosecutor and that this can't happen.
Right. So we'll get to that new tape in a second. But I first want to go to the next tape, which is Biden confirming what President Trump had just said there is that I hear that he's out there bragging that he got this prosecutor fired. Like I hear that Vice President Biden was out there bragging that he got this prosecutor fired, right? To us, that sounds like crazy. Really? He did this thing on a secret tape and then he goes out on stage somewhere and he actually brags about forcing Poroshenko to fire a prosecutor, and he talks about being involved in that process.
But the way that he was framing it to us was that he was cleaning up corruption in Ukraine, right? Which he should, if this were true, if he really believed that there was corruption in Ukraine, he should recuse himself from anything that has to do with his close family ties.
Right.
If those things were true, which did not happen.
So let's listen to him bragging about this Poroshenko meeting. This is what President Trump was specifically talking about, the bragging. Watch.
Well, I was, not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Some people saying the audio might be a little low. He was quiet there, but he's basically bragging about forcing Poroshenko to fire the prosecutor. And he told him, you're not going to get this $1 billion. And look, you've only got a few hours left. I'm leaving. I'm flying out of Kiev. I'm flying out of here. And if you don't have this prosecutor fired, I'm leaving. And he did. He did get fired. So now the tape that emerged over the weekend, it's pretty hard to find, actually. And the audio is really low. I want to warn you. But this is, according to OAN, the release of this is President Biden speaking with Poroshenko in 2020 or in 2016, a week after President Trump was elected, and basically talking about where President Biden is, or Vice President Biden is basically threatening Poroshenko with physical harm if he asks Trump for more money. Like, don't do this. Do not ask Trump for more money, because Trump doesn't like to be asked for money. So if Trump's going to be asked for money, then he's going to start looking into things. And we don't want to stir up a hornet's nest, basically. Take a listen.
This is getting very, very close. What I don't want to have happen, I don't want Trump to get in the position where he thinks he's about to buy onto a politics where the financial system is going to collapse and he's going to be looked to pour more money into Ukraine. That's how he'll think about it before he gets sophisticated enough to know the details. So anything you can do to push the Privat Bank to closure so that the IMF loan comes forward, I would respectfully suggest is critically important to your economic as well as physical security.
Okay.
To your physical security.
So there's a lot there. It's interesting. Like Clayton said, this audio is hard to find. The media has no appetite for this, right? They do not want to pin anything Ukraine related on President Biden because they want us to fall lockstep into accepting a war for Ukraine. They can sort of push this aside by saying, oh, it's OAN network, right? Which is known as like Trump propaganda, that, they say crazy things, so we don't have to pay attention to it. I feel like those are sort of dangerous sweeping under the rug that is very convenient for the dominant narrative.
Here's the Atlantic. Take a look at my laptop here, Philip. This is the Atlantic piece that chastised OAN after these tapes were released in 2020. Is OAN the leading edge of Russian misinformation? The Biden campaign says Trump's favorite TV network is peddling the Kremlin's lies, right? And this piece goes through and literally talks about the tapes and talks about if such recordings exist, they're likely linked to pro-Russian interests in Ukraine and a Russian intelligence operation. 2 former U.S. ambassadors to Ukraine and an ambassador to Russia told me.
Well, it is in Russia's interest to... that doesn't mean they created this news, right? But if the news is true and that there is meddling inside the Ukrainian government far before this conflict came out, then that absolutely is a pro-Russian narrative, whether you like it or not, right?
Well, I guess in the way that we would be interested to know that I don't know, Canada was being meddled with
Sure,
by Chinese
right?
interest or something
Yeah.
else on our back door, right? Literally at our border, there would, I guess,
But just
right?
using that as a throwaway term, anything that's like, oh, that's pro-Russian, so we don't listen to it, right? Just because it might be good for somebody that we have collectively decided is an enemy doesn't make it false or not discernible.
Yeah. I mean, so, and then he goes on to say, this Atlantic piece, conspiracists have alleged that this was intended to help his son Hunter escape charges of corruption. But an audit by Ukraine's former top prosecutor released last week found no evidence of illegal activity. Oh, that's convenient, right?
The new prosecutor,
The new prosecutor.
the
right.
prosecutor that the Biden family seemed to like, didn't
Yeah.
find that. That's interesting.
You know, so when you think about that little quip, like that little dinky ass quip that President Trump made to Zelensky about having your attorney general look into this because it's interesting, led to
An
impeachment.
impeachment trial,
I mean, that
full blown.
Now think about it. Now think about, will we hear any discussion of impeachment for President Biden on this? Absolutely.
Or will
not.
we hear anything beyond just, OAN network, which people dismiss, or our YouTube channel, right?
Right.
Where
Although
else
that's a
will it
conspiracy.
be?
Because if you try to dig for these tapes, good luck trying to find them. You won't. You won't see any mainstream media coverage of it. Try to flip to CNN. The employees over at CNN are crying because their ratings are so low. Maybe you should give them a chance tonight and flip over and see if they have primetime coverage of these these tapes. By the way, OAN actually said that they have over 5 hours of this stuff. And of course, it was widely discredited. People were like, come on, no, they don't. This is fake. Poroshenko labeled it fake, on and on and on. And now my question is, like, why are we only hearing, in fairness, like, why are we only hearing about part of this now? Like, what else is there? Why are we waiting now to hear about this?
Or
Wasn't the veracity of it, I don't know, but that's a good question, right? How much more is out there that we'll learn about? We're continuing to learn more about Hunter Biden. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, what I find is interesting is one, that Biden was involved in this at all, because if he doesn't talk about his business dealings with Hunter, then how did he even know that there was problems going on in Ukraine? And two, how the hell, name one other prosecutor the United States government has gone after anywhere. I mean, I've never heard of this happening. We don't, there's corrupt prosecution going on all over the world. We don't get involved in it. Why this one? Then specifically, if he's going to brag about that he did it, brag about why.
Right.
Right.
That to me seems to be a missing piece here. Why it doesn't happen anywhere else?
Right. Yeah. And why was this his decision? It wasn't really being pushed from the Obama administration. This was more like a personal from what.
Well, the way he just framed it, he's like, I got Ukraine. So I was like, oh, Ukraine, right? As if he was dealt it in a hand of poker.
Right.
Ukraine was given to me. I don't often say this, but I believe that's the lie. I do not believe that little bit for what you assigned yourself Ukraine.
Right. Yeah, of all the ones that are on the table,
Ukraine.
Joe, which ones do you want? Let me see. I'll take Ukraine, I guess.
And you would hope that the Obama administration was a bit more competent than that and say, you have to recuse yourself of that one because your boy's involved there. Oh, yeah, okay, all right, I will do that, right? That's how it's supposed to go.
Right. Isn't your son involved?
So he should never have got Ukraine, if that is, in fact, a true statement, which I don't believe.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
He drew the short straw and just happened to get the one location on Earth that had the only corrupt prosecutor in existence. That was just really
to do with
bad
his
luck.
child.
What's amazing
that's all because he wouldn't know about that.
Yeah,
he doesn't talk to him.
And I love that. So now we're okay with the corruption, right? The corruption was bad then, but now we're okay with the corruption, right? Because now we're going to give you now we're not just going to give you $1 billion. We're going to give you $70 billion. And we don't care that your government is corrupt. Heck, this weekend, Vladimir Zelensky just put on administrative leave 2 people in his administration for potential corruption charges, right? But they're not fired. They're just put on leave while there's an investigation, I guess. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. right? And so, you have, again, and that's well known, right? That's one of two of the most corrupt countries.
Yeah.
Now we're fine giving you $70 billion.
Well, one of the things that Congress and the media told us that Trump should be impeached for that phone call to Zelensky was that he withheld aid in exchange for this investigation that he wanted, right? And I went back and I believed that at the time. I remember feeling like, yes, that is unconscionable. And I went back over the transcript today of that call. And the only way that you can, he points out, the United States gives you more aid than Germany. Germany talks a lot about Ukraine, but they don't give you stuff. It's us that gives you a lot of stuff. Just want to let you know that, right? That's what he says. And then later on, he says, do me a favor, though. He never actually makes it clear that he would withhold anything if he doesn't get this, do me a favor, though. And I guess that was a shock to me because, like I said, I'm willing to admit to you that there's egg on my face because I believed it at the time that that was an impeachable call. And I couldn't find it as black and white as we have now. And that's shocking to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people saying they can't believe you believed that at the time. When you're, again, when you're spoon-fed this crap from the mainstream media,
yeah,
and it's forced down your throat a certain way. I never thought for a second that he would actually be removed from office. Like, I knew it was going to be a political witch hunt. And once Nancy Pelosi is involved in trying to distract, and pushing people in that direction, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Any chance they could get to make sure that Bill Clinton isn't one of the most recent presidents in memory to be impeached, like throw Trump into that as it was definitely a political witch hunt. But when you look at you want to compare like impeachable offenses now,
right,
like things to be impeached about, right? Like,
yes, but the media I consumed at the time convinced me, and I feel very differently about it now. I'm willing to say this.
Well, it's very big of you to say that. How many people here watching right now have ever been wrong or felt like they've been duped by the media? Let us know
or
in the chat.
Or are sad that you behaved a certain way or voted for something or anything like that.
All 9,000 of you watching right now have never, ever believed something or been duped by something, right? I mean, it's tough. When you're weeding through this crap on a daily basis and you're looking and you're considering the sources. I mean, you're reading like an opinion piece in Politico and you're like, oh, this piece is brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I see. Oh, BP. British Petroleum, you mean they're the ones that funded this study? And that's why it's a lot easier to just sort of sit there and where a lot of people do and just consume like this crap. Just flick on the clicker,
right,
and sit there and don't actually consider the source and do the digging like our audience here does. That's why you're watching this show.
Well, we're going to have more of that when we get to our next discussion about COVID around the world.
Can you do us all a favor, though? It really helps while we are live. If you just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the show, we're here every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Thursday. And then just smash that like button and it pushes us out further into the algorithm. Really, really helps. We are up against... Jeremy over at The Quartering did a story today, and I was just watching a little bit where he's talking about how like YouTube is like favoring these like 5-second videos now, these like stupid little meme videos, try to keep up with TikTok. And so when we're up against that, when we do an hour-long show or longer, actually doing real content and real news, we're up against these like little 7-second crappy pieces of content that get pushed out there. So, please help us by subscribing and liking the show. Hey, we've got more news to get to here on the show. Coming up, we are going to talk about, let me see if I put the rundown up because I never see it in front of me. There we go.
We're going to talk about Pfizer contracts and the United States readiness for the fall and the next stage of the pandemic, according to the media.
We're going to tell you where these new lockdowns are happening. Yeah, they're going to be pushing new lockdowns and new mandates as it relates to the pandemic. Did you think we're out of this yet? No. We're going to tell you where this is happening, and we'll do that. And we're going to talk about this mysterious plane crash that happened over the weekend. Really fascinating what's happening in Greece. But first,
we'd like to tell you about our show sponsor, over at Athletic Greens. Now, Athletic Greens is a part of our daily life here in the Morris house. It's a great way to add nutrition to your diet and your routine, help to make you feel optimal. And Athletic Greens, with just one scoop, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. Although I will admit to you that Clayton normally has it in a smoothie. Smoothie is midday here for us, so you don't have to start your day off right. You can have it whenever you want. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things, right? Because we know how hard it is to actually get all of our vitamins and minerals from wholly sourced food and fresh fruits and vegetables. Of course, we should be having as many of those as possible, but if we can't get it all in, there's help, right? This is lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It checks all the boxes. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, and it still tastes very good. I can attest to that. It actually makes your drinks a tiny bit sweeter, but not too sweet. It's quite nice. It supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best based on the latest science with constant product iteration and third-party testing. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the cold and flu system, with just 1 scoop every day. So Athletics Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, plus 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/invest. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/invest to invest in yourself, take ownership of your health, and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right. All right, let's talk a little COVID news and some updates on these big pharma contracts. I want to start with what just happened in Uruguay. We don't talk about Uruguay all that often, but a judge there has actually just halted jabs to children because he wants to know what's actually hidden in these contracts. That's right, the contracts that the big pharma companies have with governments. Now, the judge's name is, we should all know this judge's name, by the way, because he should be celebrated. Judge Alejandro Requeri issued an injunction to the Uruguayan government to suspend all COVID-19 injections of children under the ages of 13 due to a lack of proof of safety and efficacy, as well as missing information on the composition of the so-called jabs. But also, even more than that, wanting to know about these contracts that these big pharma companies have with governments, and do they actually protect them from criminal prosecution? We know civil prosecution, of course, but the contracts that they have with these governments, because of any sort of adverse effects, can they be criminally prosecuted? And they want to know what's in these contracts, which are hidden.
What is the liability that they are writing off for themselves, right? Is the government just sort of willingly said, whatever, we'll sign on to this? Like, what did your government agree to when it allowed the dissemination and the injection of these medicines, right?
Right.
So what's there? The judge is saying, until we see what our government has agreed to, we're not going to allow children. And I wonder why just this age limit, 13 and below, why it wouldn't be for everybody, right? Or is it because there's an agreed upon age? You would think, right, that there's maybe an agreed upon age that you think that they need to continue to be vaccinated, or, you know, what, and it's not necessary. And what's interesting is they're asking for the government contracts, not necessarily like we've seen in the United States by the Freedom of Information request, information about the trials. They want the deal, the money, right?
So, yeah, Uruguay's Ministry of Public Health has agreed to go through. Here's what they say, and I'll put this up on the screen on my website, laptop here. Conditions that must be met before COVID-19 injections are reinstated for children under the ages of 13 include, number one, the publishing of all purchase contracts for the injections, including any documents attached to them, especially those that detail the compositions. Now, I'm reading from what they've said. This is not me saying this. This is what the Uruguayan Ministry of Public Health. They want the compositions of the substances in the vaccines.
Oh, they do want that. Okay.
The preparation of a text to be given to guardians of children scheduled to be vaxxed that informs parents of the composition of the injections, the risks and benefits, the clarification that the injections have an emergency, not definitive authorization. So these are, again, pointing out that these are emergency use authorization, not actually been definitive authorization.
Well, that brings me to the point of the fact that now the FDA and the CDC are going to ask Americans and perhaps other people around the world to take another booster here in the fall based on a brand new injection. And there are all kinds of issues with it, right? So there's an Atlantic piece that I'd like to draw your attention to because it sort of lays out this argument that new COVID vaccines will be ready this fall, but America won't be. And I'm interested in these tidbits of how it frames the fact that there has been that the pharmaceutical industry is way behind the eight ball. Is that the expression?
Yeah,
okay.
Behind the eight ball. Ask Philip. He's our resident pool pro, right? You actually tour and play pool almost professionally, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I played Las Vegas Nationals 8-ball last year.
So any
Impressive.
pool
behind the 8-ball works.
Yeah, any pool reference, you got to bring Philip.
Okay, sorry. It means that you're like,
That's okay.
you're behind, right? That
Behind the eight ball, or you're like the target, right? If you're behind the eight ball, right, you're...
No, it means because you don't want to sink the eight ball until you've sunk the rest of your balls,
if your
right?
ball is
So-
behind the 8-ball, you're in trouble because you can't hit the 8-ball first. So
Right.
if you're behind the 8-ball, you're
I think that's not the expression that I wanted then, because what I mean to say
Hands off my balls.
is that okay, that behind the eight ball then means you're in the weeds. Right?
but yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
So what this Atlantic piece is saying is that the United States is actually way behind in developing this vaccine that the health industry was hoping for in front of the fall so that we could head off flu season. But what's interesting about it, if we just pull up these quotes, it says that the Biden administration could soon offer booster shots to all adults, which is an amuse-bouche, which is like a palate taster for fall's Omicron-focused vaccines, which may not debut until October at the latest, by which time BA.5, which we're all supposed to be so afraid of, may be long gone and potentially too late to forestall a cold weather surge. Can we go to the next screen, please? It says that an FDA advisory meeting in late April, Marks told the experts that the fall's vaccine composition should be decided no later than June. The agency didn't announce the new ingredients until the final day of last month, that's June 30th, and it chose to include BA.4 and BA.5, the reigning Omicron subvariant, rather than the long-gone BA.1, which Pfizer and Moderna had been working with. So this decision, meaning they didn't really have a lot of data yet on this new mandate because they were working with BA.1, is again going to put them behind, right? If we could go to the next screen, please. It says, a problem with that is that these will come late and that Americans are not actually having an appetite for more boosters, right? It says less than a third of all Americans have received a first booster, a pattern that experts don't expect to improve massively. And just how much of an immunity boost the updated shot will offer is unclear. When the FDA recommended including BA.4, BA.5 spike, it had limited data on the proposed recipe collected in mice only by Pfizer scientists. So Pfizer and Moderna won't have time to generate rock-solid efficacy data in humans before the shots are authorized, then rolled out on the fall. So, okay, that's important. Here's your booster. No rock-solid data in humans, just in mice.
Yeah.
Okay. I just think that deserves a little attention.
Well, just like, and maybe that's why we had Dr. Fauci over the past few days coming out saying this. If you take my laptop, Philip, Dr. Anthony Fauci, I'm reading here. Dr. Anthony Fauci told Fox, when he told Fox News, he says, one of the things that's clear from the data is that even though vaccines, because of the high degrees of transmissibility of the virus, don't protect overly well against infection, they protect quite well against severe disease leading to hospitalization and death, he told to Fox News. That they don't work overly well, he said, from stopping people from getting infected. Those are Dr. Fauci's words. And he also admitted that he's going to retire before the end of Biden's term.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think a lot of people questioning this right now. But
So, that begs the question, now that there are counties starting to put new mask mandates in place, such as Los Angeles County, do people want to do this? Are they willing to do this? Back to this Atlantic piece. This doctor says we start talking about COVID and people's eyes glaze over. They basically don't want to hear it anymore. And so he says the messaging will have to be fundamentally different than last year's conversation about boosters because that didn't work. People don't want this.
So you're going to start to see, guys, this is what you're going to start to see new messaging. You're going to start to see like new ways of trying to sell a lockdown to you, new mandates, right? Because the old messaging is not going to work anymore. And if you're going to start to see, like we talk about this great reset, this liberal world order, as we enter, watch for this coming up. I'm gonna flag it for you when I see it, but I watch for it. Maybe you guys can let me know if you see it before I do. But as we head into the fall, we head into the midterm elections, you're going to start to see they try out these think tanks. They try out all the messaging. Heck, I've interviewed Frank Luntz a million times. The guy, of course, wrote the book on Republican messaging. This is what they think. They group test this. They focus group test this stuff to find out what messaging will sell you and make you believe this stuff, right? So we have like mask mandates now. Here's Zero Hedge reporting on this at a press conference in Los Angeles. LA hospital officials mocked COVID media hype. This is what's said in a press conference dripping with a mix of exasperation and dry-witted sarcasm. Two officials at one of the largest hospital systems in Southern California threw a bucket of cold water on media and government efforts to whip the public into a state of fear over the latest COVID-19 uptick. Their remarks came on the same day that LA County Health Director Barbara Ferrer declared that the county had moved into a high level of COVID transmission. 2 consecutive weeks in that status would trigger the reimposition of indoor mask mandates on 10 million people who still choose, I love that, who still choose to live there.
It's interesting that, do we have any of this video from this?
No, I didn't. I forgot.
Okay.
To get it, yeah.
It's actually quite hysterical. There are doctors from University of Southern California, my alma mater, which has one of the best medical schools in the country. I didn't go to medical school, so.
So you didn't get any of those benefits?
Yeah. So, and Los Angeles County, and the doctors are like, well, the media wants us to tell you that COVID's super scary. I'm sorry, we can't alarm you about that. We don't have any intubations from COVID. We haven't since February. People who are coming in here with COVID are not coming because of COVID. They're coming diagnosed with COVID plus some other comorbidity or coexisting condition. But I guess we can alarm you about monkeypox if you want. And these are real doctors, you guys. We'll link to this in tomorrow's newsletter on redacted.inc. So please make sure you're subscribed.
It's unbelievable, but
it really
great.
is.
But I think we're getting into a good tipping point here because people are saying, like, hey, we can't, sorry, we tried to alarm you. We're not going to do it. We're not going to fall for this anymore. We're not going to fall for the media hype on this. But listen, somebody who is falling for this is the World Health Organization. So the WHO is having an emergency meeting. What is today? Today's the 18th, right? I don't have my watch on.
It is.
I'm looking at my watch.
Your tan?
My tan line. Like, where's my watch? Oh, it's charging. So the WHO is going to reconvene a monkeypox emergency panel on July 21st. So they say that this thing is running rampant. New York Times had a lead story on it this afternoon. We can't stop it. We're trying to stop this emergency monkeypox. This is the new pandemic hitting into the fall. It's monkeypox and a mixture of COVID, and we don't know what to do. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, which we should all be concerned about, because, of course, they were trying to consolidate power, right? The World Health Organization was trying to consolidate power. They were trying to get rid of what was I trying to say here?
Local governments'
local governments' decisions in favor of a consolidated World Health Organization government that would take over currency. So they forget the US dollar and the euro. The World Health Organization would make sure that during the next pandemic, we are going to have our own currency. We will set the rules. President Biden, the United States, was happy, more than happy. Other Western countries as well in the European Union were happy to turn over power to the World Health Organization. And thank God Africa, certain countries in Africa stepped in and voted against this, voted against giving this power to the WHO.
So did Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil as well. But come later this summer, they're meeting on 21st, but come later this summer, they're going to take up this vote again to consolidate power. Who gave these people power? Unelected people that have the power to make these decisions and tell you how to live your life. And to, again.
Well, if that doesn't work, click the link that I just sent to you.
You just sent me, hold on a second. You sent me a text here?
Yeah.
Hold on.
And then, Philip, can you take his screen? If that doesn't work, we've got this coming in the wings.
The first Marburg virus disease outbreak?
In Ghana. So.
Okay. What the hell is this now?
It's a.
I don't want to tell you what that looks like.
It's a virus. No, it's a stomach bug. It's like vomiting, nausea, diarrhea.
Great. All the good stuff.
Yeah.
All the good stuff that helps you lose weight.
In a bad way.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, that's good.
That's coming in the wings. You heard it here first.
That's good. Is any other pieces on that? So we have the okay.
No, I think what's interesting is, and this last screenshot I have from the Atlantic piece, is that now our sort of tepid response to COVID at this point is being called a failure of
a blend
of the media, right? Not that one. Can we go to the next one, Philip? I'm sorry. Yes, this one. So the Atlantic is saying that when vaccines were freshly rolled out, there was a popular narrative that was tantalizing. The narrative was that the shots could permanently stop the transmission in its tracks. And this doctor is saying everybody that worked in that space knew that that wasn't true, that we would need to rebooster, revaccinate, and that kind of thing. But the media took to us and said, hey, if you just get this inoculation, we're done. The pandemic's done, right? And so now there's this mistrust. There's a counter narrative, there's disappointment, right? And so it's really, it's not the medical community's fault. It's just that expectations were high. We thought that the first round would, what else is interesting actually though, is that there also is not a clear plan for who gets what vaccine right now. And so the screen that we skipped, can we put that one back up? It says that primary shots will still be the original. So even though now the FDA will roll out these Omicron targeted vaccines, people who had those are only boosters. So if you've decided, well, now I think I'm going to take my first shot, you will be getting the first ones that don't have Omicron, even though that is the dominant variant. So raise your hand if that makes sense to you. So that boosters are switching to an Omicron blend, but contrary to what the FDA had initially planned, primary series shots will be sticking with the original recipe. Why the F, you guys? Does that make sense?
No, how many people here have been, let me know if you got in the jab. Let us know in the chat. Like, have you, I mean, it's amazing to see how this narrative has changed dramatically. I mean, dramatically over the past couple of years. And even just this summer, we've seen how it's now shifted dramatically. But you're also still hearing from the White House. They're still going with this line around mask mandates and pushing for these boosters and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Here is the White House COVID task force response doctor, Dr. Jha, was on ABC News just this Sunday on This Week talking about what the White House considers. Listen.
But are those who have been vaccinated, boosted, and have been infected before getting infected at the same rate as those who have not?
Yeah, we're still seeing protection against infection. I mean, obviously, protection against serious illness is still preserved, and that's the good news. But we're still seeing some protection against infection, but not as much. This is that immune evasive nature of this virus. So if you got your booster, let's say last November or December, you don't have as much protection against this virus as you'd like. So one of the key messages coming out of this moment is if you are 50 or over, and if you've not gotten a shot this year, in the year 2022, it is absolutely critical that you go out and get one now. It will offer a very high degree of protection.
Eric in our chat says, I got doubled, and I was, hurt by, I mean, this is the story, and it's like, unfortunate thing is, you get in trouble for even talking about this stuff. But fortunately now, enough of these doctors in the White House talking about these things. You have Dr. Fauci coming out and saying, so you have one side of the White House saying one thing and one side of the White House saying another thing. Like one, they don't, like two arms operating independently of one another right now. And again, we reported last week how the biopharmaceutical industry is upset that they cannot, I think it was a Bloomberg piece, or maybe it was a New York Times piece, where the biopharmaceutical companies are upset that they cannot figure out a way basically to profit off of long COVID. People that have symptoms for many, many years, they can't figure out a way to make money off of that. Here's one way to make money is keep forcing everyone to get boosters.
Sure.
So you don't have to worry about the long COVID piece. You can just worry about the short stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And any new variant that comes out, here you go.
Well, we remind you that we won't really get any data from the vaccine trials until the next 15 to 20 years because a judge has ordered the pharmaceutical companies to show it to us, and they're saying, we really are too busy. We can't release this. So I wonder then when we will get the data on this not rock solid efficacy of the new Omicron boosters, which is what The Atlantic has called it, right? Based on only mice. So probably 50 years until we get that.
Yeah, these pharmaceutical companies are busy saving lives, so they cannot give us the information. So I totally understand that. They're saving lives.
So sure, give it to my kid.
That's what they're doing.
After the mouse.
After the mouse. We've got more news to get to here on the show. I hope that you're subscribed to the channel. If you're new here, we are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Global Mean Time, or Greenwich Mean Time. Sorry, I say that. Is Global Mean Time and Greenwich Mean Time the same thing?
I don't think there is a Global Mean Time.
Or is it just Greenwich Mean Time?
I think you're the only person that believes in global mean time. It's
Yeah, I want to bring us all together with time. I want to eliminate time. I hate daylight saving time, so I'd like to eliminate that. When we come back, we're not going anywhere. We just want to tell you real quickly what we've got coming up here on the show. This next story is crazy, okay? And we're going to unpack it, and you're going to see more coming out on this story in the next few days, I hope. We'll see if the mainstream media covers this plane crash story at all. It sounds like something out of a Tom Clancy novel. But wait till you hear what this story. It's absolutely crazy. We'll get there. We're also going to look at Nancy Pelosi's husband and some startling information about his stock picks, which are pretty darn amazing. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Shopify. Do you have like an idea kind of rolling around your head of a store, something you'd like to create? Maybe maybe you create I don't know, you're a designer or you build stuff, right? And whatever.
Beanie
Baby clothes, whatever. Can you guys name in the chat? Let me name a store idea and throw it in the chat and see if we can come up with.
I have one. When the kids were little and I used to put their socks on, I wanted to make like sock puppets that little kids actually wear. So like you could put them on and be like, I'm Mr. Blah, blah, blah. And then they actually wear the sock puppets. I thought this was a brilliant idea.
Yeah, because our kids always walk around on cold floors and we're like, what are you doing?
Right. So maybe they would like walk around their little, but I'm not creative enough to come up with the characters, but I always thought this. So this is my Shopify idea that made
So here's a Shopify idea for you, the sock puppets for children. Shopify is a platform designed for anyone to sell anywhere, giving entrepreneurs like yourself these resources once reserved for big business, customized for your needs, with a great looking online store that brings to life any idea, any tools to manage your day-to-day and drive sales. Making your idea real opens up endless possibilities. It's a journey, but that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. Believe me, like this show, when we started this show, we started our company, you don't have all the resources. You don't have the big team together, right? So with Shopify, you're able to make your dreams a reality. I love how Shopify makes it easy for anyone to successfully run their own business. Shopify powers millions of entrepreneurs just like me From first sale to full scale. Every 28 seconds, a small business owner makes their first sale on Shopify. You can gain knowledge and confidence with extensive resources to help you succeed. They've got 24/7 support, so you're never alone. It's more than a store. Shopify grows with you. This is possibility powered by Shopify. Shopify powers, I said, millions of entrepreneurs just like me. And you can get access to all sorts of powerful tools to start building and customizing your own online store with no coding, no design experience, all of that in just minutes. You can be up and running. It's more than a store. Shopify grows with you. All right, so here's what you do. Go to shopify.com/redacted, all lowercase, for a 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. You can start selling on Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/redacted right now. That's shopify.com/redacted. You know, when you support our show sponsors, they believe in independent journalism and what we do here on this show. So you help support our show. Like, we wouldn't be able to do this without them and your support. So please check out the different show sponsors that we have here that believe in what we do. We are not funded by billionaire media corporations like CNN or any of the big boys. We are all supported by you and our audience. And if you support our sponsors, that helps take care of our show here. So thank you so much for that.
And if you use my sock puppet idea, let me know about it. No, I don't, but it is a great idea.
At least someone has a butter store. Eric says, what about the butter store? Sell butter.
Okay. I don't know.
A fancy butter.
Sure.
Would you ever go out to eat sometimes and they get like a little dab of it's got like a little sea salt in it or something like that?
A butter trio that sometimes happens.
You know?
Yeah.
They've got like what's another, like an herb butter?
A pesto butter.
I like that, Eric. Thank you. Boris is a clown. Poppy, I think you're talking about Boris Johnson. Probably not a store idea, but maybe Boris the Clown Store, a Boris the Johnson Clown Store.
Yeah. Philip, are you in on the sock puppets? You want to go in on that?
Oh, I was just going to say, if somebody did take the idea, they should at least name one Natalie.
Yes, right?
That seems fair. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like it.
All right. Let me get my bearings here.
But seriously, why don't those exist? Like, if sock puppets exist, why don't we actually wear them to add more fun to our lives? I don't know why no one's thought of this before.
Great question. Add more fun. When I think of fun, I think of sock puppets.
Sure.
That's like first thing on my list.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, like, hey, I want to have fun today. Man, I wish I had sock puppets laying around.
If you've ever had a 2 or 3-year-old and you get them dressed in the morning, you just think of like how that could add fun to your day. Like, which one do you want to wear today? Like, you know, Ernie or Bird or whatever.
I want you to do that to me in the morning. Can you do that? What about adult sock puppets?
Yeah, it could be for anybody.
Clayton, what kind of athletic socks would you like to wear? Is today a hiking day or a sit around on your ass day?
Right.
That'll dictate what type of sock you want to wear.
Grumpy the sock puppet?
Do you want we got crocodile socks. All right. Well,
hang on. I'm not plugged in here. Okay.
Plugged in?
Let me get myself all.
You got your sock plugged in? You got your sock puppet?
Okay.
Sock monkey?
Bra strap. All good.
You're discombobulated.
I am. I rushed off to go to the bathroom in the break, and now I'm not all right. Hang on.
All right.
Click, click, click.
Okay. Sean says this is getting weird. Oh, you haven't seen weird yet. You want weirdness? What do you hear about this next story? Something very strange happened this weekend in Greece, and I believe in many ways it's being covered up. And the reason it's being covered up is because the people that witnessed this bizarre occurrence in Greece, so local civilians, said that they were kept at quite a distance. They weren't allowed to get near this thing at all, which I'll tell you what it is in a second. They were being kept, and you cannot come near this. You can't take photographs of it. You can't go anywhere near this. Interesting, right? It's like a UFO crash almost. Mm-hmm. So what happened? Well, it was a Ukrainian cargo plane filled with weapons that picked up in Serbia. So picked up weapons in Serbia, we think, according to the initial reports. And again, we're going to get more information about this. Then it crashed on its way to Bangladesh. Now,
that's not on the way to Ukraine.
Right. Now, it was a Ukraine cargo plane. So if I'm pitching you a story and I'm like, hey, I have an idea for a new Tom Clancy novel, right? Here's the story. It starts out with this thriller, right? It's a Ukrainian cargo plane. it crashes after picking up weapons in Serbia on its way to Bangladesh. And after it crashes, the rescue workers who go to investigate the crash notice a bizarre white substance scattered all over the ground. And this mysterious substance is causing all of these rescue workers and first responders to have all of their lips go numb and extremities to act all odd. Wouldn't you say, no, that's too crazy? Maybe you could pitch me a story about, like, you know, we bring back dinosaurs in a park and call it Jurassic Park. That would be more believable than this story. So when this started unfolding on Saturday, I thought, whoa, this smells really, really weird. This is a really bizarre story. Well, an excellent journalist, Diliana, and I always butcher her last name. She's a Bulgarian journalist. She's broken a lot of big stories about chemical weapons and bioweapons, covering Bulgaria, Ukraine. She's done all sorts of excellent journalism over the years. She writes at armswatch.com, and she's been digging into the story. So this Ukrainian plane crash reveals U.S. deals of U.S. sanctioned Serbian arms dealer. His name is Slobodan Tesic. Let's go through this a little bit here because it's very bizarre. This is the remnants of the plane crash. Do we have the video of the plane crash also, Philip? Let's roll this because this is what was happening. So it was on fire. People were seeing this fireball coming into the sky. This plane was already on fire before it hits the ground. Why is it on fire? Why over?
Are you asking me to
I'm
answer
asking,
that?
why over Greece was this Ukrainian cargo plane on fire? And then it proceeded to explode and explode and explode. And then there's this bizarre white substance, which you can see here in the photos on my laptop, all over the place, which was causing people to have their lips were going numb as they were standing there looking at this.
Someone in the chat says Viagra.
Maybe.
I don't think that.
Would your lips go numb? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Don't ask me.
I can think of something that would do that, but it'd be an entirely different story because are they sure they were weapons and not drugs?
No, we're not sure about anything. What is the substance that you're referring to?
I mean, I'd be thinking of white stuff, white powder, right? Than that, I guess, right? But a fire brigade official told reporters that firefighters felt their lips burning and white dust was floating in the air. The substance has been examined, not found to be radioactive or biological material hazardous to public, the local mayor said. The plane had been chartered to transport weapons from Niš to Bangladesh, with 2 scheduled stops in Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Both of them are countries bordering on war zones, Syria and Yemen. Now, according to the Serbian defense minister, the dangerous cargo included 11 tons of illuminating mortar shells and mortar shells for training in the Bangladeshi army. Okay, so just to be clear, this is a Ukrainian cargo ship. Like, where are these weapons being paid? Were the weapons coming out of Ukraine? Which begs an entirely different question, right?
Right.
If we're paying for all sorts of weapons to be used against Russia in Ukraine, why are they
sending them to other battles?
Right. Why are they flying weapons out of Ukraine in a Ukrainian cargo? How does Ukraine have a cargo plane that they can be transporting weapons if they're literally begging us for $60 billion to fund a proxy war? Like, they're literally running guns to Bangladesh? Like, that's what Zelensky's army is also doing? This thing stinks to high heaven. Like, what the hell's going on here? So who's the real owner of these weapons? Is this guy, perhaps? Which is, here he is, Slobodan Tesic. Now, according to her reporting at Arms Watch, Serbian media have asked if the owner of this LLC, Valir DOO, is the Serbian arms dealer Slobodan Tesic, even though his name is not listed anywhere. Now, Tesic has been described by the U.S. Treasury Department as being among the biggest dealers of arms and munitions in the Balkans, right? He's on a U.S. sanctions list. We do not work with this guy unless he changes his LLC name literally short time ago and is now basically reveals that U.S. deals of U.S. sanctioned Serbian arms are going into Bangladesh. So he changes his LLC name and now we're totally fine with it on the U.S. Treasury Department's website as somebody who would violate sanctions if we worked with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can, So many questions. They're all
Yes.
flying out of me. So it would be okay to work with him. So then you think the U.S. is involved in this? I mean, it feels like
I don't
it
know. I
is
mean,
indicating
I don't know.
that
8 people were killed. Why the hell? I mean, why the hell was this thing on fire ahead of time?
yes,
Right? What is this white powder that's causing all of these people's lips to go numb and these, burns on their bodies? 8 people are killed. Why are we making pit stops in these random places to pick up arms to transport to Bangladesh? Is it going to Bangladesh? Is it going to Myanmar?
well, not random, given that the two places that you mentioned, the United States is involved in conflicts in
Right.
Syria and Yemen.
Right.
So
So is this the way that we get around
that's
this?
an easy thing to connect.
How often are these arms, how often are these arms deals happening that we just don't even know about? Well, I'm sure, we're all sitting here laughing about that, right? But literally a Ukrainian cargo plane, how often are these little puddle jumps happening? We're just going to land in Jordan. We're going to land in Saudi Arabia. We're popping off in Serbia. We're lining up all of these mortars and ammunition rounds to fly to Bangladesh. Here's what the U.S. deal says, according to Arms Watch. While Tesich has been under U.S. sanctions, meaning that he cannot deal with any company in the U.S., his LLC has exported 249 tons of Serbian weapons to the United States, according to U.S. imports data and public records. In 2020 alone, the company declared $15.5 million annual revenue just since its incorporation. Okay, all of these, look at this. Look at all of this, right? All of these different arms that of cartons of small cartridges of caliber Luger weapons, ammunition, right? Cartridges, let's see, I'm looking through the cartridges, small arms caliber, 19 millimeter, on and on. Pallets, 17 pallets. Look at all this stuff. 17 pallets. Here's another one, packed on 20 pallets. 1,280 cartons of cartridges, small arms class. Unbelievable. Into Charleston, South Carolina, via Germany. So it's okay. And he literally, after he was sanctioned by the United States, he literally just pops up and creates a new LLC a few weeks later, 2 weeks later, and he's back sending weapons on behalf of the U.S. government.
Or to the U.S. government. If you scroll down further, it says the buyer of many of these is an American company.
Yeah, Nemo Arms Incorporated imported 150 tons of ammunition in 2021. With the exporter being Valer DOO. The cargo was transported by sea from Bar, Croatia to Wilmington, Delaware. Look at that. I mean, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, we're supposed to be sending things out, not in. Apparently. What were you going to say, Philip?
Well, it kind of answered that point of it. Was like, I thought the U.S. government was importing them, but if it's going to a private company, that's a little bit different. But I mean, this just it just smacks of CIA kind of Iran-Contra stuff. That
right.
We're so happy to give, $40-50 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine, and then suddenly these weapons are being transported around to Syria, to Bangladesh. It sounds to me like some backdoor CIA stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know.
It's too strange to be.
Well, I just want to know how you have a Ukrainian cargo plane that's transporting arms to somewhere that's not Ukraine at this moment.
Right.
Right. That to me is a real. And then the other piece of this, of course, is why the hell was it on fire and going down? Number two. And the third piece, well, if there's fifth, the third piece is what the hell's the white substance causing people's faces to go numb, right? And entire towns are being told, hey, you don't go near this, don't go anywhere near this. This could be a very dangerous, who knows what the hell it is at this point. But the fact that Deliana is covering this story, and she's been watching bioweapons and covering the bioweapons labs in Ukraine and other areas, she's been doing amazing work on this. There's a lot of questions. Let us know in the chat your thoughts on this story. It's unbelievable. All right.
Shall we talk about Nancy Pelosi and the new bill coming up in the House? Will be taken up in the House just this week, whether or not the United States should make a $52 billion investment in semiconductors, because we were told recently from the White House that these inflationary numbers need to be sort of picked back up by spending in big tech, right?
Right.
Because inflation is just a problem because you can't upgrade your iPhone. Has nothing to do with you not being able to buy milk or gas or anything like that.
Right. It's about
Right.
getting computer parts. Like that's the most important
So,
thing in the minds of Congress right now.
Congress is going to take this up and, offer up a little money to the semiconductor industry, which is why it's interesting that Nancy Pelosi's husband purchased $5 million in stock options from NVIDIA, which is a top semiconductor company.
Yeah,
right?
just did it on June 17th. Bought 20,000 shares of NVIDIA, a top semiconductor company worth between $1 million and $5 million, according to the Daily Caller. This is an amazing disclosure filed by the House Speaker. So he knows that she's literally about to work on this $52 billion boon to domestic semiconductor companies and give tax credits for these productions, could only do well to buoy the stock price of NVIDIA. And then her husband, who obviously just got a DUI in Napa Valley a few months ago,
Yes.
is now somehow got a great stock tip and is able to buy 20,000 shares just a few days ago. There he is. That is Paul Pelosi, the DUI guy. And it says, this could have access to some insider legislative information. A government affairs lobbyist for the left-wing think tank Public Citizen told the Daily Caller, this is the reason why there is a stock trading app that exclusively monitors Paul's trading activity, and then followers do likewise. So people who followed Nancy Pelosi and Paul's specific stock trades have been doing very well because it's remarkable. They buy these stocks, and then a few weeks later, they have these meetings. They have these private meetings, and they have these congressional oversight. They start to push these bills that actually benefit certain companies.
Yes. Now, there is a bill moving its way through Congress that would ban Congress members from investing in anything that is not blind, right? From making investments such as this. It does not extend to their spouses, as far as I know.
Right.
So this would be okay, right? It would be less kosher if it were Nancy Pelosi herself making this trade, although that is still allowed. It would be disclosed, but it's still allowed, right? And then she can go forth and vote on a bill to give companies that she's invested in a leg up.
I mean, this is criminal, in my opinion. I mean, how can
It's not criminal. It's allowed.
Well, I know it is allowed, but it should be criminal.
Well, you can call it, it's maybe immoral. You can make that argument, sure, but these are the rules of engagement.
It's unbelievable, though. Like, you have Congress, which is built by Wall Street for Wall Street at this point, right? It's built by Silicon Valley for Silicon Valley. So they have these private meetings. Nancy Pelosi can get on the phone with the head of Google, have a phone call. I spoke to this person for an hour the other day at the head of Google, the head of Microsoft, this and that. Oh, and then at home over dinner, I tell Paul, my husband, something's coming up in the next few weeks. You may want to invest in NVIDIA. You may want to buy some stock in these different companies. And they go in and do that. It's unconscionable. I mean,
we don't know what their dinner time conversation is like, but it does smack of privilege that the rest of us don't have,
yeah,
right?
I don't know.
Martha Stewart went to jail for insider trading.
Right.
This sounds very similar to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
I don't know the nuances of
here's
that.
his transaction report. I think we have Paul's transaction report. This is public. Here's the White House. This is the transaction report. You can see it bought Apple on the 17th of Apple would benefit from this, right? Sold 50 call options with a strike price of $100 and an expiration date of 6/17, right? So some call options there. Then also NVIDIA and Visa. Sold 10,000 shares of Visa and exercised 200 call options expiring at the price of $100 for NVIDIA.
Melinda makes a good point. She says it is criminal if it's insider trading, a la Martha Stewart. So
Right.
You're right, that word would apply.
But I mean, I guess, think about a number of members of Congress, members of the Senate had to answer for questions. They got they certainly had private meetings about COVID, right, ahead of what was about to unfold.
And made commensurate decisions about their finances that the rest of us did not have access to.
Yeah, they had private meetings about what was unfolding, about what the government was going to do with the pandemic. You know, they knew ahead of time. They had these private meetings. They went and they called their brokers and like, sell this, get rid of this, you know, while the rest of us didn't know any of it, right? We didn't know. We didn't have access to this private information. And of course, and a lot of people got burned.
I think what's interesting is this is a lot different than insider trading, though, because it's like its own category. Because insider trading would be somebody on the inside of the company saying, "Hey, we have a bad report coming out. You want to sell?" This is like another category where you've got somebody that regulates them, saying, "I'm going to regulate this thing. Sell now before the regulation happens." Because that's not like insider with the company. It's like it's so bizarre. Like it's corrupt, is what it is.
Yeah, but it is insider if the government really is in bed with big business, which is a theme that runs through our show very often.
Well,
but you're right. There's no rules against that in the same way as insider trading.
I forget the author of the book Woke Capitalism. It's a great book. You should all read it, about how these companies like go woke, and they on the one hand do woke things, on the other hand, what's the
doing woke
we're doing woke things, but on the one hand they they're like, we support Black Lives Matter, and while on the other side doing ridiculously horrible things in sweatshops in Africa. It's ridiculous, like the hypocrisy.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy, his book Woke Capitalism, highly recommended. One of the things he talks about, though, is the idea that now I can't think of it. The relationship. He's talking about the relationship of Silicon Valley with Washington, and that you might be able to say that those are separate entities, but in fact, no, they are actually part of the same thing. They are literally, if they are informing laws and decisions, then they are not separate. Silicon Valley is not separate from Washington D.C. They are part of the same thing.
Yes.
If they inform legislation, they're in meetings, driving these discussions, then they become part of the same thing. And he actually talks about it as like a separation of church and state, because for a lot of people, it becomes like a religion. And so, I don't know, it's interesting. Read the book, but they are so cozy and in bed. And the fact that Paul Pelosi can invest $1 to $5 million in these stocks just weeks before these votes. Yeah, it's horrible. That's horrible. I want to tell you about our friends over at Sheath Underwear before we get to our super chats. When first introducing, I want to show you here's look at this. Take a look at your screen, guys. Sheath Underwear, fantastic, comfortable underwear. I've been on a kick lately where I'm just been throwing away the bad underwear and going for the good stuff. And here's an example of my favorite new underwear. It's boxers. They're designed to keep everything off of your legs. That's the worst feeling, guys, when you're out there doing work in the yard or just taking a walk. You don't want any of that baggage hanging around you don't want any of the bananas and oranges touching.
You're not supposed to have more than one banana.
Yeah, you don't want to have multiple bananas touching your legs. You don't want any of that.
According to that graphic there, you should only have one banana and two plums.
It's designed to keep your plums off your legs. Sheath has 2 individual compartments to keep everything down there separate and cool and comfortable. Traditional boxer briefs are barbaric, and they were invented during the Neanderthal era. Sheath has a modern ergonomic design intended to prevent skin-on-skin contact for long durations, which can build up heat and sweat, and it prevents it all. Sheath is amazing. It's the holy grail of underwear, I'm telling you. I mean, they have an inverted kangaroo pouch for your Joey to keep you from sticking to your thigh. It's amazing. I'm telling you what, you're going to love me when you try these for the very first time. Ladies, too. You will chafe. You will chafe and readjust less because everything is in a separate compartment. Because everything is separate, there's less smell, too. So they were invented by a U.S. Army veteran who came up with the idea for Sheath during his second tour in Iraq.
You just walk around with that. The banana is a generous illustration, I think.
I'll walk around like that.
Okay.
U.S. Army veteran came up with the idea for Sheath during his second tour in Iraq, where it was hot as hell and his boys needed to breathe. He invented these underwear to keep your boys cool and comfortable, and he is a hero. he could be liking Nikola Tesla or Elon Musk, because sheath underwear are what you need in your life if you want to be a modern man. All right, so here's how you get 20% off. Got to try this, okay? You have to use the code redacted. So go to sheathunderwear.com/redacted for 20% off, okay? I'm telling you what, your plums are going to thank you. Your banana will thank you for trying these. Go to sheathunderwear.com/redacted, or just click the link in our description. We'll have it there as well. sheathunderwear.com/redacted to get 20% off. Thanks to sheathunderwear.com/redacted for protecting our bananas and our plums and our kangaroo and our Joey.
And your other stuff.
And all of our other stuff. All right, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're here every day, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Central European Time is 1 hour ahead of us, so that's it'd be 10 p.m. What time is anyone here watching us in Japan right now? We have viewers who are watching us right now from all over the world. Let us know where you're joining us from. I saw New Zealand. I see Romania. Let me just give some shout outs here. Dusty Bones, Margaret Thatcher is here.
Is she now?
Margaret says, I hate ads. Well, you know what? Hey, it's a free show, and we have sponsors that are able to support us in between our segments.
And do you like comfortable underwear? I do.
Do you like comfortable underwear, Margaret? Margaret Thatcher, that's your screen name.
Do we have more super chats? We can get to those.
Iceland. Alberta, Canada, Bulgaria. And by the way, our ads give you a chance to just readjust your bananas for a few seconds. You know, grab a drink, listen to us for a few seconds before we move on to the next story. We spend about 8 hours putting the show together, so it puts a lot of hard work into the show, and so we try to break it up with some space in between there. Tennessee, Sweden, Finland, Canada,
Australia, Ottawa,
Romania,
Serbia, France.
Sure. Artillery says, I'm okay with the ads. Well, thank you so much, Artillery.
Oh, I hope you're more than okay with them. I hope that some of them are useful to you.
And we only allow companies on our show that we believe in and that believe in independent journalism here as well. So, and what we do here. So,
okay, super chats, please.
Super chats. All right, we have. Let me go down the list because quite a few things. So, Isabel Devine, Lake House. DK, Gary F. Monson, Gotts VB, I don't know how to pronounce umlauts, to be honest. Michelle Fulham, these are all people that became new members. Nichelle Williamson, oh my gosh, there's a lot of them.
Thank you so
Linda
much.
Uzi, Metal Kajer, okay, so those are all the people that joined as new members. We've got a ton of super chats, so I'm going to kind of go through them quickly.
Okay.
Stop me if you want me to. Wololos, there are no white hats. China already invades South America. It kind of goes on. I'm not going to read the second half of that. JES, love your show. You cover what the others don't.
Thank you.
Jason Montoya, going to Saudi Arabia for oil might be a very good idea for real, because if the world only has 70 years of proven oil left, then you want the USA to have the last of the oil, have others use it first.
Okay.
And then Sun Tier and Jamilia Ashfu both sent stickers. Jessica Mai, not sure if this is connected, but DuPont opened a facility in Ukraine in 2017. DuPont equals Delaware equals Biden.
There's so many corporations in
Santos.
Ukraine, you know, like it's unbelievable when you start digging into it.
Huh.
And then Jessica amended that correction, DuPont in 2012 in Ukraine.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of them here. Okay. Eric Erdman, hello, greetings from Germany. I love your work and want to thank you. Can you tell a little bit about your story, how you brought up your channel and why you left your job at mainstream media and why you are living in Europe now?
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a separate video about that sometime, just to sort of introduce you to us. We could do that.
I could just briefly, but thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I mean, I spent 20 years in the mainstream media. I was a news anchor. I started out as a journalist. CBS News, NBC, all over the country, political reporter, then finally the last 10 years at the network. And after 20 years of waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning, decided to pack it in, and I felt like it was a younger man's game in Manhattan. Plus, I didn't want to work for somebody else anymore. I had been building our business, and You know, so we wanted a better life for our family. That's the short of it. But yeah, maybe we'll do a deeper dive on that.
Sure. I mean, you really only talked about yourself there.
Well, he asked about me. He asked why I left
you
Fox.
guys.
He said, why did you leave Fox? Oh, I thought you said, why did you leave Fox?
He said, why did you guys leave mainstream media and do your own show? So I exist too. I'll tell you my story some other time.
Yeah. She's here too.
Not today.
But not today.
Hers is super salacious, so you just it's got to take.
It's
a full
really
extra
not. I
video
mean, I worked in
edited.
the news media. I popped out a couple kids, so I stopped working full time, and now I'm back. Not a couple, a triple. That's the short story.
Slugs Eagle, can you guys add paranormal and space news?
Yeah, I think, you know, the point of this show is redacted news. And actually, one of the stories that we covered back when I came up with the name for the show was there was 2 stories the day that I was like, what is the new name for the show? Like, we're rebuilding the show. What is it? What is it? What is it? And I just was like, okay, I'm not going to force it. And 2 stories we had that day. One was on vaccines, and with redacted information from court documents. They were redacted. And then the other was about UFOs, and it was something to do with the Department of Defense. And I was like, that's the name of the show, Redacted. That's where I came up with it. And so
You just said department.
Department. Well, that was the
You
UFO
said fart.
department.
It's the time of the show where I'm just gonna.
I know.
I'm gonna giggle about farts.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love paranormal news and covering that stuff, and the stuff that I've learned over the years, like interviewing, you know, governors and pilots and in my mainstream media time, you know, generals and stuff will make your head spin. Stuff, you know, in the paranormal world and the UFOs. So, as that stuff comes up, I'm more than happy to cover it.
All right, we have Strange Universe. Camp Conrad Weiser was a great experience.
Wow,
Kimchi
Camp Conrad
Noodles,
Weiser
can
in
you
the
please-
house. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Can you please try for Dr. John Campbell on your show?
Oh.
Yeah, I'd love to have John on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nemanja Stojanovic. I'm sorry I ruined your name. I'm sure of it. Please don't be a plane with weapons from Serbia.
Oh yeah, because I was I was teasing that ahead of time. I said, oh, please don't let that be the plane. Yeah, it was.
David Malton. It's Hunter Biden's dope and Lindsey Graham's weapons going to Ukraine to destroy everything. That's the white powder in the guns. Jaden,
Yeah.
those semiconductors go in your skull in liquid form. They are graphene oxide photonic 5G nodes that pass the blood-brain barrier. I want to see some science on that personally.
Yes. I think that's hyperbole. I think.
Yes. Let's see. Read that one, and the last one, Star Garnet. Ads are there to adjust your bananas.
That's right.
Yes,
That was the
I
last
know
one?
That while they're doing an ad read, that's when I adjust. Yep, that's the last.
Exactly. Dragan Petrovic? Dragan, am I saying that?